YouTube? This is Wayne with Wayne's Fish World, and this week we are talking about quarantining your fish. Quarantining your fish is a heavily debated topic. Not so much for the fact of how to do it, but how long you should do it. And we're going to dive into that in this video. What is quarantining your fish? Quarantining your fish is isolation for your fish. So why are you isolating your fish? There's a number of reasons to quarantine your fish. For one, you really should quarantine your fish before introducing it into your main display or show aquarium. What this is going to do is going to prohibit or decrease the chances of parasites, flus, worms, diseases, bad bacteria get introduced to your tank. It's not going to decrease the chances to 100, but it's definitely going to lower those chances of bad things happening. But a quarantine tank is to isolate something by itself so you can control it. Think of it as a controlled experiment. In your main aquarium, it's really hard to have a controlled environment because there's many things going to be applying to each other and affecting one another. But in a quarantine tank, you're more flexible. You have control of the situation. So what are some reasons to quarantine your fish? One, when you're getting your fish in, you really want to quarantine your fish first before they go into your show tank. That way you're eliminating the chances of any of those bad things getting passed on to your aquarium. But let's say you did quarantine or you didn't quarantine and you have a breakout in your aquarium, sometimes you'll have to remove those fish, especially for saltwater aquariums. Let's say I have a saltwater SPS reef tank. Well, guess what? The medications that treat those sicknesses in fish will affect the other livestock in the aquarium, and it'll either harm it or kill it. Another reason is maybe your fish had babies. A lot of you new people out there are getting into live bearers, such as guppies, mollies, swordtails, platies, fish like this. These fish are constantly breeding. It's what they do, and they're going to have offspring in your aquarium one day. It's no chance around it. If you have a male or female, you're going to get babies. Another major reason people quarantine their fish is because fish sometimes don't get along. Sometimes people will put their fish that's not getting along in isolation to calm them down. I've had to do that before to 2 angelfish. One of them still in that aquarium. Now that we know what a quarantine tank is and what it does, how do we go about setting one up and how do we choose the right size? In my opinion, a quarantine tank shouldn't be very large, all depending on the number of fish that you're trying to quarantine at once. For fish small like tetras, guppies, platies, a quarantine tank the size of 5 gallons is minimum. Yes, that's the tank size that they shouldn't live their life in, but it's temporarily. You've got more control. Fish a little bigger like medium-sized angelfish and some of your medium-sized cichlids, they need to go in a 10-gallon aquarium. Some of your larger fish like your medium-sized Oscars and your Jack Dempseys, you might want to be quarantining these fish in a 20-gallon aquarium. Generally, I really wouldn't go over 29 gallons in a quarantine tank because it's just not necessary. And with a smaller aquarium, yes, the parameters are going to be less stable, but you're going to have more control. Setting a quarantine tank up, it's not that difficult. We want to go completely opposite of what we're told to do with our display tanks. We want to go simple. We want to go back to 1996 where I was 4 years old. We want to go back to having hang-on-back filters, sponge filters, air stones, a heater, all depending on the fish that you're quarantining and the reason you're quarantining the fish. You do not need light for a quarantine tank. Light in the quarantine tank is just aesthetics. I really wouldn't want to put intense light on a fish that's in a quarantine tank in the first place. It's an unnatural setting for the fish. It's already going to be slightly stressed. You do not need to have intense lighting on it. It's only going to stress them. But in a quarantine tank, you're going to need some kind of structural hiding spot for a fish, especially if the fish species are shy. PVC pipe works great for this. Another question is, do I have gravel in a quarantine tank? No. In some applications, it might be beneficial, but in most, it could do more harm than good. Having more surface area in the quarantine tank would give more surface area for bad things to attach to it. This is my ideal quarantine tank. 10-gallon aquarium, Marineland penguin hang on the bag filter or aqua clear or something along those lines that's a powerful filtration, an air pump with an air stone that's pumping oxygen into the aquarium, a couple PVC pipes, a heater if necessary, and maybe a light. Room light will be just sufficient enough. So now that we know the basic outline of a quarantine tank, let's get an opinion from an owner of a local fish store. Not just any local fish store, my local fish store, Gavin Rogers. What do you think are some advantages of having a quarantine tank in your home?
Well, I think the saying goes, it happens. So, you can always prevent that. I mean, there's so many possibilities that you can kind of root out. And
just keep going.
And I mean, as the local fish store, we're kind of your first quarantine, but you can never have too many. We kind of keep an eye on the fish and see what's going on with them before they get put in a bag and sent to you. But then other stuff can happen, and it's always good to kind of monitor them before you go throw them in your nice display tank and cause all sorts of problems.
So, do you think a quarantine tank is really going to crank up that electric bill like people think it will?
No, I mean, most of the time with quarantine tanks, you run like a sponge filter, especially if you're running some sort of antibiotics in there, and then you're not really...
Keep it simple, sponge filter, not even a light necessary, and maybe a heater.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need gravel.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not running bacteria there.
Yep. So, what do you think are some key advantages of having a quarantine tank?
I mean, just to keep better eye on special fish, like they're having babies, or if someone gets sick, or you can kind of separate them away from the chaos of that display tank and let them chill out. Kind of like if you're sick, you want to go just lay in your bed. You don't want people bothering you. Same thing for fish.
What's a good size for a quarantine tank? Is there a limit on how big we can go? Is there a limit for too small?
I mean, for the most part, you want to kind of keep it small just for the simple case of if you're dosing with medicine. If you're trying to, fix the problem, you're using less medicine. You have to treat a 55-gallon quarantine tank. It's going to initially cost more than if you're treating a 10-gallon.
Sure.
So 10, 20 gallons, use less medicine, same results.
Cool. So this is the biggest question on quarantine. This is everyone's opinion, and it's their opinion, and you're not going to change people's mind. But how long should you quarantine tank? Some people are saying you should quarantine a minimum of 3 days. Some people are saying a minimum of 6 weeks to extreme. In your personal opinion, when do you think it's okay to put that fish into a quarantine tank?
I mean, it depends on why you're quarantining. If you're just bringing them home from the store, you're just taking that little extra precaution. I mean, a couple of days, maybe a week.
Just enough time to monitor.
Yeah, now if you got some sort of parasites, some serious parasites or something going on, you probably want a little bit longer. And I mean, if it's just a sickness or just a sick fish, wait till they're feeling better. Just monitor them. Just like when you're sick, you're not going to have the flu from this date to this date. You're not going to have a cold from this date to this date. It's whenever your immune system kicks in.
Now, this is a big one that I've been trying to tell my audience, and a lot of people will understand it, but there's some key people out there that just they don't understand it because they've never experienced it. And I know the answer to this, but what do you think about this? If you quarantine a fish for, let's say, a month, and you drop it in your tank, and all of a sudden you experience a breakout, and you've never introduced any other fish, do you think fish can still get sicknesses built up in their body, even if you quarantine them?
Well, yeah, because I think you said in one of your previous videos about the immune system. It's all about stress. If you don't acclimate into that new system, if you introduce them into that display tank in a stressful way, their immune system drops. That illness can come right back, especially if they were already sick before.
Exactly.
If not, then you run into all sorts of other problems. Just a weak slime coat, if nothing else. Or like you had in your ballad sharks, where they kind of scratched themselves up and then got sick.
Now, this is one thing I think is crucial, is if you're going to quarantine, I personally feel like you should quarantine for at least 2 weeks, in my personal opinion. This is the reason I say this. just like when you go to a local fish store, at the fish store, you guys get it on what, Wednesday? Yeah. When they get
on where.
yeah. So if you go to a local fish store and they get their shipment, let's say Wednesday or Friday, you don't want to buy that fish on the same day because that fish has went from wholesaler water to bag water, which gets nasty, and then it goes to the holding tank at the local fish store, and then it goes to your own aquarium. So you've introduced that fish to a lot of different waters, and it's never adjusted.
Well, we don't let fish go out the same day they come in unless you are told. So we'll tell you, hey, these just came in today. At that point, you're kind of buying at your own risk.
Now a little bit of disclaimer.
Yeah, not that always means something bad's going to happen, but it is a little more stressful with fish. We always like to hold our fish till we actually see them eat for that first time. Once you know they're eating, they're pretty happy.
Tell them where the fish store is located so they can come here.
Well, we're at Warsaw, Virginia, a little town in the middle of nowhere at 5020 Richmond Road, Gordon's Pet Store. I think you should show them a little picture of Gordon.
Gordon? Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
This is Gordon. This is basically the mascot of the fish store. This guy has been through hell and back, literally. He's been with the pet store since day one. He's the original owner's pet. He had it as a... Oh, it's a story. I'll let Gavin tell you guys about it in a different video. I'll be definitely doing a tour and interview with Gavin and the rest maybe of the pet store. But that's for another video at a later time. So guys, that's pretty much it. Quarantine tanks. What do you think about them? Do you run quarantine tanks at home? Personally, I don't quarantine my fish that are going into my display tank. Is it risky? Have I paid for it in the past? Yes. But I do have several tanks laying around that I could absolutely take that water from that tank, introduce it in the aquarium, do water changes from the water in my display tank, have a heater, hang on the back filter, and maybe an air pump going on that tank, and the fish will be fine. It'll meet my standards. That being said, guys, I hope you like this video. Leave your thoughts and comments in the section below. Hit the video if you like it. Show the love, guys. If you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button out. It's going to help me out a lot. Until next time, I've been Wayne with Wayne's Fish World, guys. Keep it fishy. I will see you guys next week. Later. Fish store owner Gavin and Gordon's friends. So these are the basic outlines of a quarantine tank. Let's see what a pet store owner... Fuck it. Whew. I got it. I don't drink, but this could be a beer. All right. So now that we know the basic outlines of a quarantine tank, let's get the opinion of my local fish store owners. Fuck.